The button.
Oh,
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. My name is Jennifer Bober, and I work in marketing and communications here at Renew International. We're thrilled to have you with us today. As we get started, just two notes that the webinar is being recorded. So watch your email the next day or so, and we will send you a copy of the recording. It'll be a link to it on YouTube. And also, we'll be taking questions, and I will be monitoring the question box. So please, if you have questions as we're going along, put your questions right in, because if you're anything like me, I know I completely forget. By the time I get to the end, I'm like, what was the question I wanted to ask? So please ask them as we go along. And we're happy to have Pete Fiore with us today to talk to you about Baptism Matters. So take it away, Pete.
okay. Thank you, Jennifer. And thank each and every one of you for joining Jennifer and I today for our Baptism Matters webinar. I'm sure some of you are familiar with Renew, but for those who are not, before we begin, I'd like to share with you our mission statement. Renew has been for 40 plus years helping people like you and I grow in our faith and our community through small group experiences. We were one of the first to do it, and we certainly are still considered an authority in the field. Okay. So let's begin with baptism. Years ago, I read a really wonderful book written by Joseph Martos entitled The Doors to the Sacred, and it was about baptism and the seven sacraments. And Joseph made a point that while all of our sacraments impart a grace, baptism is special. It imparts sanctifying grace, the grace of salvation. So as one priest friend of mine used to say, Peter, remember, baptism is the ticket to the dance, you know? So in prior years, baptism was considered very important. Today, however, it's difficult to get young people in the door, especially to the font of baptism. You know, in the 70s and the 80s, even in the early 90s, there was a great urgency to have babies baptized. After you were born, parents found a way to get their baby baptized, you know, within the first month or two. In fact, my mom tells me that she still was in the hospital when I was baptized, because back when I was born, the tradition was you baptize your baby within 3 days. And my mom says I gave her a hard time during labor, so she was still in the hospital, but I still got baptized within 3 days. But I remind my mother that I have never given her any other grief since that time. But I don't think she would agree with that. Anyway, young people do not feel that there's a great urgency to baptize their babies today. So getting them into the baptismal font is a difficult task. So as we were putting together baptism, we decided, you know, what do we know about young people? Why, you know, what should we look at when we consider young people? So nothing in the next couple of slides that I'm going to show you should be a surprise, especially if you have young people in your immediate family, or if you know young people, or particularly in your working with young people. So some characteristics of young people. We know that they are very tech-oriented. We know that young people and older people, their lives revolve around that little thing they carry in their hand called a cell phone. And that's easy to see because all you have to do is walk around and you'll see everybody's face is buried in one of those. You know, shortly before the pandemic began, my wife and I were in a supermarket and we saw, I believe, about a 6-month-old baby sitting upright in a shopping cart. And the baby had its mother's cell phone in its hand and was doing this on the screen. It's about 6 months old. So how quickly we learn to do that. And as we grow older, we rely on it. So we also know that young people are crazy busy. So this is actually an agenda of a young person, and it's quite congested. So young people are busy not only with what they need to do at work, but they have busy social calendars, and they also dump on there everything that their kids have to do. You know, one of the surveys we looked at actually said that by the time a child is 3 years old, their social calendar is booked. And I believe that to be true. No longer is it okay to be involved in one after-school activity, but parents feel a great need to enroll their children in as many activities as they can, and then schedules get built like this, and they're crazy, crazy busy. Something else we know about young families is that today, as opposed to in the past, many young families are non-traditional. So young families today are not only headed by mothers and fathers, but also by single moms, single dads, possibly grandma and grandpa, family members, or any number of non-traditional family units. So that's important to consider. We also know that young people today are not as well catechized as people in the past. And there's a whole host of reasons for that. That could be the subject of another webinar. But for whatever reason, you know, everyone is on their own faith journey, and everybody is in a different place. And some are further along than others. But one thing we do know about young family is even though they're crazy busy, they are still looking for community. And we know that because they're on lots and lots of social media platforms, you know, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and a bunch of others that my grandchildren know and I do have no knowledge of. But we know that young people want community. And it's not enough to just have community of their family and friends, but other people that are possibly around the world or in their own area that they do not know. So we know that. We also know that welcome really does matter, okay? In speaking and in looking at surveys, if you ask young people why they have left the Catholic Church, they will definitely tell you one of the big reasons is they did not feel welcome. And in speaking with many church leaders and priests and bishops around the country, many will know this, and some will not admit to it, that as a church, we do not do a really good job in welcoming people. And welcoming doesn't just mean standing outside the church and saying, hey, how you doing? How's everything? You know, thanks for coming to some Sunday Mass. But one of the interesting things when I speak to young people, they will say that their parishes did invite them into groups, but would not allow them to be leaders of those groups. And that's considered welcoming. Some of the very best parishes that are very successful with young people is not only do they ask them to join, but allow and encourage them to some leadership roles. So we know that welcoming really does matter. We also know that if we want to work with young people, we need to embrace technology. And that's not a big secret, right? If you want to engage any kind of groups of people, you need to learn their language. So if you go to a foreign country where they don't speak English, if you want to engage with people, you really need to learn that language, or you won't be so successful. Same thing with young people and their technology. And we also know that if we really, really want to engage them, we have to be flexible. Whatever we put out there for them needs to have options, flexible options. We also know that we need to meet them where they are. Again, remember I said that not everybody's on the same, in the same place. We're all on the same faith journey, but we are all in different places. And to that point, we needed to realize that not everyone is going to know or is going to have the same knowledge base. So when we crafted Baptism Matters, we decided to start with the basics. That giving more was better than giving less. That for those people who are more knowledgeable or further along on the journey, you know, they could move along quicker. But for those people who really needed to start at the basics, we wanted to be able to do that for them. And also we realized that it's important to give young families with new babies opportunities to meet others in the parish. And this is really, really important. And actually, I could give you countless stories that I hear, and also personal witnesses to how important this is and was in my own parish. And I'll touch upon a little bit of that as we move along. So what makes us different? What makes our online program different from all the others that are out there? And I will say there are other good Baptism Matters programs, but I will also say ours is better, and for a number of reasons. And also I'm a user of it, and so I've used others. One of the things that makes us completely different is we are 100% online. So there's no need to print any materials or store any of the materials or keep track of it. Now, that being said, about an hour ago, I did receive a phone call from a parish that has purchased Baptism Matters and is going to use it, but wanted to know if I could supply printed material. So we talked about that. You can download and print these materials, but that would kind of negate one of the major benefits of using it, and there are great workarounds to it, okay? All of the parent modules cover all of the topics in the general directory for catechesis for baptism. And one of the other great advantages of being online is that we can update instantaneously all new information. This is a big one. It allows for identical formation for all families in your program. Now, prior to using Baptism Matters, I crafted my own Baptism Matters program in my parish. And when I did it the first Tuesday of every month, it ran about 90 minutes. Unless there were parents in the group that had colicky babies and found out that I had 2 colicky babies. Then we were probably there for over 2 hours because I was not only teaching them about baptism, but I was giving them parental tips for colicky babies. But here's the deal. My catechetical training was 90 minutes to do a good job. When I couldn't make that, and I asked someone else to do it, particularly one of the priests in my parish, it was done in 10 minutes. So there was a great variety. One of the better things about this is every single set of parents in your parish will get identical information. And that has been one of the major happy features in all the feedback that I get from parishes. The other thing is it's going to free you or your staff or your volunteers, who's ever doing baptism training, from not having to do the catechetical training. And when you do meet with young parents, to have a better meeting with them, a more pastoral meeting, a more relationship meeting. And we know that young people are into relationship building, because that's what they'll tell you. I don't need to come to church because I'm not into the rites, the rituals, and the liturgy, because I have a great relationship with God. Well, they're looking for relationships. So when they learn all they need to learn at home and they come and sit in front of you, you can be more relationship with them, more relational with them. And you can ask them different types of questions. And hopefully what we envisioned was that in those meetings that you had with, or gonna have with young parents, you can allow them to become more engaged with parish life. Quite possibly you can show them more of what's available when they join some of the ministries in your parish, and use that time to try to engage them into joining some of the things. One of the goals for Baptism Matters was to close that gap between seeing parents at baptism and then not seeing them again for 7 years until they came back for First Holy Communion. So we're hoping that these meetings, because baptism is your initial evangelical point, we're hoping that you can start that process now that you don't have to catechize. We also recommend using a mentor model. I would say that in my conversations with people around the country, it's about 50% do, 50% don't. If you haven't done that, I would recommend that you do. We do that in my parish. It worked out really good. And one of the things that we learned years ago when we started assigning mentors is that young parent couples really prefer some older parent couples to do the mentoring, because they get a lot of parenting advice from older parents. Now, that's not to say that's the same for everybody, but don't be afraid of assigning an older parent couple if that's all you have available to you. It may work to your advantage. But I think trying mentoring could be of benefit. Okay, we do provide downloadable and printable interview guide forms and some other things that you can use. Our forms are pretty good. They're pretty robust and complete and comprehensive, and we get good feedback on them. So if you're looking to update your own forms, you might want to try using ours. We also provide an in-person meeting guide. Again, we do recommend that you have a meeting with young parents. So for example, when I do it, I will meet with all the parents that are baptizing babies within that month. And we will do an in-person prayer and faith sharing and discussion group. Out of that, we have grown a couple of other groups and small groups. It's a good opportunity to show them what it's like to be in a small faith sharing group. Not all people like it, but some did and have decided to stay together in their own small faith sharing group. The program will also allow for follow-up automatic emails at birthdays for the babies and also baptismal anniversaries. Again, to try to close that gap and keep these parents engaged between baptism and Eucharist. I'll show you something a little bit later where we have a platform where we should be allowed in the future. We should be able to allow you to do some custom work to send out to parents. Right now, everything here is automatic on our end. So when you decide that you're going to buy, notice I didn't say if, I said when. So I'm hoping that all of you will do this. But if and when you decide to buy Baptism Matters, you will get a login email, and it will bring you to this site, and you will use your email and password to log in. And you will be brought to a dashboard right here. And I'm going to use the Cathedral of St. Matthew here. They are one of the first users and one of the better users. They have put through, this is early on, they've put through about 30 young couples at this particular point. But this is what you will get to see as a parish coordinator. And if you notice on the left, under the group, Cathedral of St. Matthew's, you have two tabs, an admin view and a my view. The admin view will pull up on the left all of the users in your parish. And you will see in the middle of the screen how all of the users assigned are progressing as a group. But then you have the ability to click on any one of those users and see how they personally are doing. So if you clicked on the very first one, Dan, you will see this. This is Dan's page. And you'll notice that in the middle of the page, on the upper part, you'll see that his class was Baptism Matters for Godparents. Dan was a godparent in another state. And he completed 100% the Baptism Matters for Godparents. But you'll also see in the upper right-hand corner, under certificates, Dan did not complete and print and download his certificate. So the coordinator here had the ability to call Dan and say, hey, you are a godparent in another state. You need to provide proof of preparation. So go in and download and print your certificate, which Dan did. You also have the ability to email it. So both godparents and parents can download, email, and print their certificates. All right. So that's one thing that you can do. Now, you have the ability to monitor the progress of each and every parent couple. So you will be able to go and see as a group. But again, click on every name on the left and see how well or not they're doing. So if you know that there's a baptism, a baby to be baptized in a week or two, and you look at their parent activity and they haven't done this, then you need to get on the horn and you can call them and tell them to get it done. And this has worked out really well for a lot of parishes. If you go back to this and you look up on the top, so you'll see on the top there are 6 tabs: dashboard, learn, resources, etc. If you click on the resource tab, this is what you will see. You will see 4 PDFs. You will see the guide to Baptism Matters. You'll also see how to order parent and godparent courses. There's also a family resource tab and a program overview. The one for family resources, we are constantly updating that with new things. In fact, one of the newest PDFs that's going in there, and godparents have access to this too, is going to be a tip sheet for picking proper names and for picking good godparents. Because in some of the feedback we got, parents wanted wanted a stronger guide on how to pick good godparents. So we're putting that in. We're also going to be putting other things in there that are not going to be faith related. They might be parenting tips for young parents. So we hope that by doing that, parents will continue to come back and look at the site. All right. So how do we begin all of our courses? Well, each of the modules, and by the way, we start each of them the same way. We start them with a prayer, all right, which we should pray, as all things, to begin in our life. But just to give you a quick overview, there are 3 courses for staff, parents, and godparents. The staff module will have the course will have 6 modules. And in there, we go through things like tips for welcoming, tips for setting up the program, how to run it, questions and answers, that kind of stuff. So each of those 6 modules are 20 minutes long. So it'll take about 2 hours to look through that. The parent course has 4 modules. Again, they are also 20 minutes long. And the godparent course has 3 modules, also 20 minutes long. You can blow through them all at once. You can start and stop them at will. When you reopen it, it'll take you right where you left off. So there's no going back to where you started, which is great, thank God. And I've many parents who have called me to say things like, this is great, because when my baby finally goes to sleep at 1 a.m., my husband and I look at this for about 15 minutes and we fall asleep. But when we wake up at 4 o'clock to feed the baby and we get a few more minutes, we go back and we open it up and it's right where we left off. We get another 10 minutes and we fall asleep, and it goes on and on until we finally get it done. But guess what? They're doing it at their own leisure, okay? So we begin with a prayer, and we crafted this to be engaging and not boring. So it's not all reading. But we do have witness stories where you get to read a little bit, but you also get to see a video. And then also you come back to some reading, some training. And the training is both everything they need to know about all the signs and symptoms, but also teaching people why baptism is important and why, as a church, all of our sacraments are communal, but why, as a communal church, why baptism is so important. I tell every set of family when I do a baptism is that it's not a blessing just for you and your family, but it's a blessing for the parish family and a blessing for the church at large. Every new person brought into the church is a blessing to the global community, the global church. So we make a point of that in our modules. Again, they'll get a little bit more catechetical training. At the end of every module, there's a quiz, but nothing to be afraid of. It's 5 questions and they're pretty simple. Just to give you an example, it's like, Who baptized Jesus in the Jordan River? So if you go through this, it was John the Baptist. I mean, they're not trick questions, but we let people have an opportunity to see if maybe they did miss something, they can go back. All right. So this is pretty much how the program looks and how it works. And as I mentioned to you before, the Archdiocese of Washington was our very first user. And there's a really sweet lady there. Her name is Teresa Primachevsky. Took me about a month to learn how to spell her name. We speak almost weekly. She gives me great feedback and has actually helped us redo some of this so that it is much better now than it was 6 months ago. And this is what Teresa has to say after using this program. She says it's theologically sound, pastorally sensitive, and extremely user-friendly. And this speaks to really all of the things that we hoped to accomplish, okay? It hits on all the things we wanted to hit on. It is engaging to all family units today. And I have had parish coordinators call me for help, but I have never had a parent couple call me to ask me how to navigate. So it's technologically easy for parents. Okay, and I guess right now you're saying, okay, cut to the chase, how much will this cost? Well, the initial fee is $299 for the parish. Subsequent renewals are $150, and parents and godparents will pay $25 for logging in. Okay. So some parishes will pay the $25 for parents. That's something that's up to the parish. Otherwise, it's very easy for parents to pay. It's almost like going on Amazon to purchase, but it's very simple. There's at least one diocese in the country that is subsidizing parishes to the tune of $100. So if a parish in that diocese is willing to use this, the diocese is rebating $100. So that's not for me to decide, but our fee is $299. Jennifer, didn't know if we had any questions.
Not at the moment, but I know there's one question that comes up frequently when we're doing these sessions, which is about language.
Okay.
So.
Yep. Thanks. So yes, it does. It comes up frequently, and we're acting on this. Right now, the program is only available in English. We are looking right now to have a Spanish version. But I'll be perfectly transparent, that will probably not happen for at least 6 months. Now, I have had parishes call me, and we've had long discussions. In the end, what they have said to me is, yes, okay, this is good for the English-speaking people and the bilingual. We can get through this. And if you could possibly just get us the parent modules in Spanish, we'll get them together and do it. We have never done anything that has not been really good. So when we put out the Spanish version, we want it to be as good as the English version, but it won't be for 6 months. But thanks for bringing that up, Jennifer, because I'm sure that would come up. I will give you my contact information. So there's a number of ways to get me. You can either call me. I always answer my phone. Or you can contact me at my email address there. I will also offer this out to you. I can give anyone and everyone that's here today an opportunity to touch and feel the program. I'm sure every one of you don't go buy a car without looking at it. Although I shouldn't say that, because I have met a person who did an online order and had it delivered at home. So I will amend that. I will say this. If you are the type of individual that would like to actually see what you are buying, I will give you an opportunity to go through all of the courses for 7 days. I'm able to do that. And all you really need to do is email me at peterf@renewinternational.org and give me your first and last name, your email address, and your parish name. And I will set you up for a 7-day trial. You will be able to go in as if you had bought it. You'll be able to look at all of the courses and modules, the staff, parent, and godparent. And if you're really fast and you want to put through 1 or 2 sets of parents, as long as they pay the $25, I will allow you to do that so you can get some parent and godparent feedback. And all you have to do is send me that information, okay? Any questions now, Jen?
No, there don't seem to be. You've done such a great job explaining everything that everyone is
Oh yeah,
very
I would love to think that, but the other option, the other alternative to that is I've put everyone to sleep. So I hope I didn't do that. Yeah. So I did speak to a few
I was
people.
gonna say, Raymond Vasquez, raise your hand. Raymond, unfortunately, there's no way for me to kind of respond to that. If you have a question, there is a thing at the bottom. Put your mouse towards the bottom of the screen. It says Q&A, and just click on that, and you'll be able to type in your question. So someone apparently does have a question. We'll just wait a moment while they type.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
I know that for myself, watching this, it just really is so clear and easy to follow, and it's a great program.
I will say this, I get to do many things as a deacon, and I'm sure if there's any deacons here today, they'll agree with me. I think one of the best things, if not the best thing we get to do, is to baptize and bring another follower into the fold. And in order to do that, it does require that people understand what they're doing with their children. I mean, when you baptize an adult through RCIA, it's a different story because you get an opportunity to teach people. But when parents bring young babies, the young babies don't know what's going on, right? I have not met an adult today who was baptized as a young baby that remembers their baptism. But it's an important time to impress on parents how important baptism is and exactly the awesome and the literal sense of the word, their responsibility. And I think this program touches all of that. Not because I'm directly linked to this, but even if I wasn't, okay, it does a really good job of explaining to parents what they're getting into. So after they're done going through this, there's no parent, in my opinion, that doesn't understand what their responsibilities are to that little baby that they're bringing for baptism.
Great. So Raymond is just asking for some contact information. So I will make sure, Pete, that you have his email and you can reach out to him directly. So
great. Yeah, and I will. Now, I know that I did email and speak to a few people in the last couple of days that might be from the Diocese of San Diego. And I may have mentioned that we are going to be doing a special presentation for that diocese on September 22nd. So I just give a shout out to that. Okay. We may have another question there, Jen?
No, it's just Raymond clarifying something. So.
Okay. All right. Good.
We don't worry, Raymond. We will reach out to you. So
I will definitely reach out to you, Raymond. And again, for anyone else who might not have any questions right now, who may think of some when we get off the phone, the computer, the Zoom meeting, if you have my email address or my phone number, please get in touch with me. I'd be more than happy to answer all your questions later.
Okay. Well, that looks like it's about it. Our other thing is just a thank you for this. So you're quite welcome, everyone. Yeah, we're happy to do this and to give you this information. And yes, as Pete says, if you've got questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We are always happy to help in any way that we can.
Good. Thank you, Jennifer, and thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
All right. Have a
Bye-bye.
wonderful day, everyone. Bye-bye.